things happen. I'll explain that later. But I just wanted to hop on this morning, and I didn't really have a lot prepared today. I just want to talk about the questions you guys have had. I do want to go back over lipedema and chicken skin because the people who asked about it generally are on my lives in the morning. I answered those questions at 3 yesterday, but I want to go over it again this morning. And then I want to answer all of your questions as much as I can about insulin resistance and how to overcome it, why you're having it, all of that. Arthritis. We'll go over that in a second, but simple answer with arthritis is insulin resistance is causing inflammation in your body through a number of pathways. One of them is the excess fat and excreted inflammatory markers that are coming from this gaining of fat and from cells not working properly. That inflammation is attacking your cells and not allowing the normal levels of fluid and tissue to be built there, as well as the tissues being resistant to insulin and not being able to be built in the first place. I had 2 hip replacements, 1 knee replacement before I found out that I was insulin resistant, before I figured out that I was diabetic, before I had any of that go on. When I found this system after doctors were trying to figure it out and couldn't get my diabetes under control, my blood pressure, any of that, I was supposed to have another knee replacement in 2022, and I had both osteo and rheumatoid arthritis. That knee no longer needs to be replaced, is no longer in pain, and the last x-ray I had on it showed normal meniscal space, which was not there before. So getting insulin resistance under control and helping affect the inflammation and getting nutrients to the cells that need them is key in a lot of arthritis. So there's that. Now, somebody asked about lipedema. Now, with lipedema, there's a very high correlation between the people who have it. And if you don't know, Dana, I'm just, I want to take care of this. Dana, this is not the platform for that. I get it, but let's not do that. So lipedema, you're getting swelling in your tissues and you're gaining fat in specific areas. Generally, it happens in the legs and down. And it doesn't matter how well you eat or how much you try to lose weight. It just doesn't seem to be getting better. They've found that most people, I think it's like 87% of people or well above 70% of people with lipedema also have high insulin in their bloodstream. So the thing is though there's high levels of insulin in the bloodstream, there's also high levels of something called adipoectin, and it is helping the insulin be more sensitive. So you might not be showing up on tests for diabetes and whatnot, but you have all these symptoms. Either way, you're having way too much insulin go in the body, and you're probably much more sensitive to sugars than people without that disorder. Now, they did give some, I think it was metformin, some people with lipedema, metformin, and it started to help them, and it started to reverse a lot of the damage and the swelling that was going on. So the natural solution that I talk about has helped a number of people too. I had a lady who was bedridden for 13 years, hadn't been out of bed, hadn't been able to shower, had a caregiver for a long time until she could no longer afford it. So much swelling in her legs that she was in pain constantly. And she started the system, and within 3 months, that swelling was going down. She could feel the pain lessening, and she was having some hope in her life. And that's continued as long as she's been on the system. So it's helped a number of people, and I'm sure there are others out there with lipedema that this has helped by getting the insulin under control. The second question I had on Friday was about chicken skin. So keratosis pilaris, yeah, it has to do with the keratin in your skin. So keratin is a protein. Keratinocytes are the skin cell that give your skin structure. But the keratinocytes also produce the keratin, which is a protein that goes in the skin production. And I'm not a perfect scientist on this. So what I found is that, and it's interesting that I didn't make this link on my own, but there is a high instance, and again, it's over 70% of people with chicken skin have high insulin levels in their bloodstream. So what seems to be happening is when you have high levels of keratinocytes, so keratinocyte skin cells, with insulin resistance, there's some of the cells that are taking up too much energy and overproducing. So you end up with skin tags, the little pillar-like skin protrusions around your body, because the structure of the skin is changed with too many cells being produced, and that starts to poke out. What makes sense that if those keratinocytes are overproducing skin cells, they could also be overproducing keratin. And that keratin is what's blocking up the hair follicles and creating, it's not really pimples, but it's creating these hard little bumps under your hair follicles, and they call it chicken skin. And it's annoying and it's embarrassing, and it is present more in people who seem to have high insulin levels in their system. So I hope that answers those couple of questions. Now, let's talk about insulin resistance. How many of you guys feel like you have a good control of what insulin resistance is? Because that's going to be key to understanding everything that's going on. And by the way, yes, this is me up here before I started the system. And this was about 6 months or so in. I was ready to donate my walker and my cane. I'm able to work out more. In fact, I'm getting my 7-year-old grandson who has disability to start working out with me on the weekends when he's with me. And it's hilarious and it's fun. Unfortunately, they won't let him in the gym, but we're doing as much as we can at home. But this was me. I couldn't walk. I had high blood pressure. My joints were failing. My eyesight was failing. My hair was falling out. My teeth and gums were bleeding. I couldn't get off the couch because of the amount of pain I was in my whole body. I had sleep apnea. I had the whole shebang. Everything up here I had. So all I did was, in blind faith, because I felt like my back was up against the wall, start a system that was supposed to help my diabetes. And I was hoping for some weight loss with it. And I ended up losing 55 pounds. I reversed my diabetes, and all of that came. And then I started saying, well, all of this other stuff is getting better too. And the only thing I changed was this one system that helped me with diabetes. So why is that? That's what drove me to start learning about insulin resistance and how it links. And then when I'm on live and you guys ask questions, it's great because I get to go find more links, because I've looked up the stuff that affects me, right? And I like to share that. I'm a learner and a teacher by nature. It's just where my zone of genius is. So ask me questions along the way, but we're going to talk about insulin resistance. But I did want to share my story, why those pictures are up there. So that's the difference in me, just by adding a real food-based system, no crazy diets, none of that. All I did was I'll just show it right now. The real food-based system is just 3 components, and I packed it already for my trip to Toronto. A tea in the morning, which I'm going to show you in a second, and a pre-meal drink before I eat anything, and I'll show you how easy both of those are. That's it. Why are they working, and how did this all start? Well, we figure I had insulin resistance for probably 40 years before they ever diagnosed it as diabetes. So when people say, yeah, but I don't have diabetes. Yeah, but I'm not gaining weight. Yeah, but I don't have. Look at the symptoms up here and go to my tab on how to tell on TikTok and start looking to see if that looks or feels like you. If it does, then it may just be that you're having an insulin resistance problem. In 2018, a study said that 88% of us were metabolically unhealthy. By 2022, that number had risen to 93% of us were metabolically unhealthy. And that number just keeps rising. So with almost 93, more than 93% of us metabolically unhealthy, what does that mean? Metabolism is highly linked to 3 hormones: cortisol, insulin, and thyroid. They're the main players. So if you're looking at what's going on with your body and your metabolism is jacked up and you're one of that 93%, you got to look at the big players in it. And the biggest players, so thyroid is important, but doctors are saying the most important 2 are cortisol and insulin, and they play off of each other. But insulin by far regulates more of everything that's going on in our metabolism, although cortisol is right up there with it. So let's talk about insulin and how we're becoming insulin resistant. I'm going to talk about the biggest way we're becoming insulin resistant, because there's a few other less known ways that we just don't talk about. But while we're doing that, guys, I need my tea. And I brought a couple of things. So I'm going to show you again. We're going to dive in, but I've got to have something to drink. So this is my tea that I have every morning. We're going to go over why I drink this and the benefits of it. Some people have questions about how to open it. Again, I just grab firmly above and below this little tear here mark. and I pull up and twist at the same time. And hopefully it goes easy and it doesn't fail me today. I just pull up and twist and it comes off easy. If you're pulling slow or you're trying to be gentle with it, no, it's not going to come off. So then I just pour this tea, which has 375 times the chlorogenic acids of any normal bagged tea, and we're going to talk about that in a bit, into my hot or cold water and stir it up. Now, some people said, what if I don't like the lemon flavor? You know what? We're going to do this. I have some flavored water things I rarely ever use, but I have it in, there's stevia, but I have it in strawberry watermelon and coconut pineapple. It's lemon, so I'm going to add the coconut pineapple today. Add just a little bit of that in, and there you go. Changes the flavor. All right, so I got to drink this so I can talk about insulin resistance because I need energy and I need liquids. It actually tastes good. Okay, so the ingredients in the tea, it's primarily yerba mate tea. There are some sweeteners in there, but let's talk about the tea when I'm done talking about insulin resistance. So yeah, and I want to answer those questions and I'll show you all that. There are places where you can find that. Better healthy food can help arthritis. Yes, it can. And so I advocate for eating healthier. I do advocate for that. All right, so insulin resistance. We're eating what's happening in the body. Let's talk about that first. With insulin resistance, when the body has more than 1 teaspoon of sugar in the bloodstream, it's going to cue Tanvir, stop. It's going to cue your body to tell the pancreas to increase the production of insulin. And then insulin comes out because it's the transport system. It has many, many functions in the body, but we're going to talk about this one. It transports that sugar to the cells. But not only does it transport the sugars to the cell, it's the key that opens the door of the cell to get the sugar into the cell. So let's take one step further back and say that sugar or glucose in the system is just energy. It's a calorie, it's an energy that your body needs, and every single cell in your body needs energy. Every single cell in your body needs insulin to carry that energy to it, to uptake that energy. So again, insulin transports it, unlocks the door, allows the energy to go in. That's the role of insulin. It's not the insulin inside the cell. It's the insulin carrying the energy so the energy can get inside the cell. That's what's happening incorrectly. So we have insulin receptors on every cell in our body. Some places have more receptors than others. And some cells are just saying, insulin is knocking on my door too much because there's too much sugar. And so insulin's just, instead of one truck driver, it's become a fleet of truck drivers. And now they're just running the roads rampant and tearing down the roads. And the delivery places are saying, no more, I can't take anymore. Have no more storage room for you. I'm locking my doors. Your key doesn't work anymore. That's what's happening when you have high levels of insulin. But some cells love to take in that excess insulin as much as they can. And so they start becoming overproductive, kind of like hyperactive cells. And so when I talked about keratinocytes, that's what's happening. So it's not just that your body's shutting down to insulin, it's that a majority of your body's shutting down to it. And then some of the cells are overreacting to it, and it's causing this disarray in your body. And they're now saying that 95% of our illness, or most of our illnesses today that are lifestyle related, are linked to insulin resistance very highly. So it's really important to understand that too much sugar creates too much insulin, the transporter and the key, right? And then when that insulin is high too often, it's called hyperinsulinemia, and then it becomes insulin resistance, where the cells are starting to dysfunction with it, right? Now, you can have insulin resistance be present in your body for 20 or more years before you ever get a diagnosis of prediabetes or diabetes. And why is that? When all the cells are starting to be resistant, then insulin is finding places to store it. Some of the places it's going to store it is in your liver as fat, as glycogen. Now, that starts to create fatty liver. Why do we have more prevalence of non-alcoholic fatty liver? We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But one of the key storage unit in your body for all this excess energy is your fat cells. So it's not that the fat cells created the insulin resistance, it's more likely that the insulin resistance created the fat cells. Crazy enough, the fat cells secrete um, hormones that make you more insulin resistant. So the heavier you become, the more insulin resistant you become. So yes, losing weight helps your insulin resistance, but actually getting the insulin under control helps you lose weight. That's helping the insulin resistance even more. Big, ugly cycle, right? So when you have these fat cells that have now grown to capacity and they're like, if I take any more on, I'm going to explode, they start rejecting the insulin or spilling the blood sugar back out into the bloodstream. Now your blood sugars are going up. Now they're rising rapidly. And that's what's happened to me. So now you start getting the diagnosis of prediabetes or diabetes. You could have been insulin resistant for years, depending on your lifestyle and how active you were before that, right? So I hope, does that make sense to everyone? Do you guys, if that made sense, put a 1 in. If you need clarification, put a 2 in. Before I move on, I want to make sure that this whole cycle of how we go from too much sugar to too much insulin to insulin resistance to why you're not being diagnosed as diabetic. I would love you to understand that and understand why this system is not just for diabetics. Why this is really the good thing. Okay, Stacy and Danny, thank you guys. All right, so now that we're there, right? Now we have this insulin resistance. Either you're not pre-diabetic or you are pre-diabetic, but you have insulin resistance going on. How did we get there, right? How is this number rising in 3 to 4 years from 88% to 93%? By the way, that's a huge jump in percentage of the population in just a few years. Our genetics don't change that quickly. Our genetics don't change in 50 years time this rapidly. They don't change in 100 years this time this rapidly. So, what's changed? Danny, PCOS and prediabetes are I would dare to say almost one and the same because they're both insulin resistance. Okay. PCOS is the majority of PCOS is insulin resistant driven. And I used to take a lot of flack for that 2.5 years ago, but the more science has come out and the more doctors have talked about it, the more they're understanding that PCOS is a metabolic dysfunction. In fact, they're starting to call it metabolic infertility. Prediabetes is a metabolic dysfunction. They're both linked to the same thing called insulin resistance, and I'll go over that. So skinny and had an A1C of 10.5. So you had a sugar dysregulation problem in your system causing a whole array of hormone problems. You also could have been under a lot of stress, right? I'd love to hear what you did. I'm going to share with everyone what I did and what thousands of other people are doing just to make this very simple for our lives. You take metformin. I couldn't tolerate metformin, so I do not take any medications. You guys, 2.5 years ago, I was on 13 different medications, 10 for all the other health issues and 3 for pain, for generalized pain, plus the joint pain. I don't take any of those medications now, not one. The only thing I do is this natural protocol, starting with the tea that I drink in the morning. So how did we get there? The sugar in our foods, it's our food environment. I'm going to start with saying if 93% of us are failing metabolically, and we link that back to the food that we're eating, I want you to take a look at this. If you had a child in a school and that school had 93% of their kids failing, very, very few thriving, and some just getting along, would you go to your child and say, it's all your fault? If you studied harder, if you did better, you would be better, right? Unless that kid did extra studies, unless that kid had a lot of outside help, they just weren't going to thrive. So why is it the medical community is looking at us and saying 93% of us are failing metabolically, and yet the one big thing that's told to us when we go to the doctor is, I've had this happen to me, type of 1, and if you guys have had this happen to you, I went in for a hernia surgery. I had my intestines poking out my gut the size of my fist. And this little doctor said, I get that this is a problem, but I'm not going to do the surgery unless you lose 15 pounds. She later shared with me that her initial thought was that I was lazy, that I didn't try, and that, there was this whole other thing going on. And so she just said, I refuse to do the surgery if you don't lose 15 pounds. And I broke down in tears in the office. Because in my mind, what she didn't know is I'd tried all the stuff. I'd done the medical medium, I'd done veganism, I'd done keto, I'd done all these things, and I couldn't lose more than about 5 pounds. And everything in my health was failing. My blood pressure was high. I had diabetes. I had all the stuff. Okay. And so I just cried buckets in her office. Also, I was suffering from anxiety and depression. So, at the same time, I had ordered the system in. I started it because I just felt my back was up against the wall. 3 months later, I went in. I had lost 25 pounds and she was shocked because she bet that she was never going to schedule the surgery. The dietitian that she sent me to, the nutritionist that she sent me to, actually hung up on me because I had lost the weight going against and I didn't get to talk to them for 2 months, but by that time I had already started losing weight, and, all of their recommendations were going against everything I had learned, and I was just trying to learn from them, like, "Okay, if you have something to share with me, I wanna know so I can do better," and they actually ended up hanging up on me because not because I was being difficult, because they were so frustrated that I was able to do this with just this protocol and eating nutritionally based and not extreme calorie restriction. So, PCOS is caused from too much insulin, from insulin resistance. Okay, so you take birth control because you don't have a period without it. So, Danny, when I was younger and they weren't diagnosing PCOS at the time, right? They cy- my story, they cycled me through multiple different birth control to try and regulate my periods, and it was wild. It was either some birth control just caused so many other issues and I would have no periods, or some birth control, it felt like it was just constant. And they couldn't regulate it, and it just felt dangerous, so I had to stop. I did not learn that I was PCOS for a number of years. I was in the doctor's office at least twice a month because I wanted to start a family. I was very resistant, and now that I know, I hope to help younger women understand that it doesn't take all of that. It doesn't take all that. You don't have to suffer. You don't have to feel dysfunctional or frustrated, or if you want a family, it's a lot easier than you can imagine. We've had a number of ladies who had PCOS, started the system. One of them within 3 months had found out that she was pregnant and had thought that she was never going to have children. Okay. So Tammy, I agree with a lot of that. So no medication, functional foods. I'm not going to say no medication, you guys. I do not like medication where it's not needed. Danny, are you? And I'm not picking on you. You're the one that spoke up, and so this is true for everyone. So this is just like everyone. If you're being given metformin, are you deficient in metformin? Is there a deficiency in that? When you look at SSRI, serotonin reuptake inhibitors, which there's a whole story about that, brain health. Are you deficient in SSRIs? Are you deficient in statin drugs? Are you deficient in Mounjaro, Ozempic? Like, are you deficient in those things? No. So why are we being given medications that don't address the root cause? They're trying to mask the symptoms, but they're not addressing the root cause. Now, there are some things like infections where maybe your body just isn't able to fight off the infection enough and you need antibiotics. So I'm not going to say no medication. I feel like there's a time and place for them, but when it comes to our nutritional well-being, our metabolic health, those medications are not the answer, and they're not giving you what's deficient or what's the problem. So what the problem really is that our food has changed. So even when we're eating whole raw foods or whole organic foods, we're not getting the same nutritional value that we were getting 50 to 100 years ago. That's the bottom line truth. I don't care whether you're carnivore, whether you're vegan, whether you're whatever, our foods have been jacked with. So a lot of carnivores are trying to do grass-fed beef and all that. And I agree with all that. That's a better choice, right? But our foods have changed, especially when we look at our fruits and vegetables. They're drastically changed from what they were 50 to 100 years ago. We had a family farm. We grew our own foods. I remember what organic and heirloom foods looked like when we grew them in our gardens. They did not look like the foods we're getting in the store today. So how did they go from tiny and densely nutrient foods that were sometimes a little bit bitter, never as sweet as we have now, and much more challenging to chew and digest to these things that are soft and easily chewed, and they digest so quickly, and they're sweet, and they're not satiating, right? You eat, you feel full for a minute, and a half an hour later you're reaching for a bag of chips or a candy bar or a protein bar or a granola bar or a something because you're hungry again. You're not supposed to be like that. Food is supposed to keep you full for hours, 4 to 6 hours before you start feeling hungry again. So why is that not happening? Our food has changed. That goes back to the 93% of us that are metabolically. Hey, Melba, I'm sorry I was gone yesterday. Um, so that's what's happening in reality. So what we need to do, or I'm going to invite you to do, is to take a look at if this is all happening with our food, if this is why we're not metabolically healthy, if this is what's causing all of this insulin resistance and some of these other things that I talk about, even thyroid resistance, we need to understand that we need to get nutrients in our food. And it's almost impossible to do with the raw organic food we have today, unless you're going to sit down and eat bushels of food. Like, to get the amount of fiber alone that we need in, and this is my favorite one, you'd have to eat a bushel of broccoli a day. So I'm gonna check out for a second because it cracks me up when people are like, the system is so expensive and it's $5 a day. But yet, if you looked at just for that one nutrient of fiber, you'd have to eat a bushel of broccoli. You start adding that up, that's more than $5 a day just for that one thing. You're not addressing your protein needs, you're not addressing your vitamins and minerals, you're not addressing any of that. So, what the protocol that I am doing has done is looked at what are the gaps in our nutritional system. What are those gaps? What are the main gaps? And it's putting that back in. So fibers, phytosterols, vitamins and minerals, and then some components that are helping our brain health and helping us with insulin resistance overall by reducing our blood glucose, by reducing our A1C, by giving us more fiber and a number of other nutrients into our system. Now we're plugging the holes. Now we're filling the gaps. Now our body's like, ooh, I have this stuff that I know I was born for, but I've not been ever getting. And so now I can start functioning at optimal mode. And that's really what's happening. So the standard American diet, unfortunately, is infiltrating the world. And so this is starting to be a worldwide phenomenon. Okay, you guys, how many of you think that the US is the worst metabolically in the world? Food driven, illness and disorder. How many of you guys, if you think it's the US, put a 1 in. If you think that the US is the first, put a 1 in. If you think the US is not the first, put a 2 in. We're going to talk about that real quick. But the truth is, the standard American diet, the SAD diet, is infiltrating the world. So we're starting to see this more worldwide. So as this goes on, as these big food companies get their hooks into other countries and start delivering the same type of food and seeds and growing practices, you're going to start to see this hit harder worldwide. You get sleep apnea from insulin resistance. Let me explain how in just a second. Anything cabbage is not thyroid positive. So there's an interesting thing that I was listening to a doctor this morning actually talking about a lot about thyroid, and I'm sorry wasn't able to ingest all of it. I'm going to have to listen to that again because I'm just a real person, right? But there's a lot more to thyroid than just, yeah, but cabbage and there's another one that I was told we should avoid if we're having thyroid problems, but you're absolutely correct. So now back to all the ones in the comments. You guys hold on to your seats. The US is third in the world with metabolic problems. China is, and it's either India or the UK that beats us. I think it's China and India, but I know China is one. Worse off metabolically than we are. So everybody that points at the US, it's not just us. And I'm not defending us. I'm not defending our diet because our diet sucks. Our diet just really sucks. The food we have available sucks. I remember reading a long time ago, before I ever found the system, about Monsanto introducing corn or some grains down in Africa and how people started being malnourished and getting sick and dying quicker. and from the crops they were growing, from the seeds that were brought in from Monsanto. So that was way before I found this system, and I'm like, oh wow, that's a big correlation. So it can be the lower jaw position size. So let's talk about sleep apnea a little bit. So somebody messaged me and said my lower jaw is shrinking and receding. Is the fat tongue that I talk about, is that part of it? So let's look at, and I'm just connecting links. I'm not telling you that there's science. I'm just taking the links from all the papers that I've read and all the information I've gotten, and I'm going to put together some dots. So follow along with me. With sleep apnea and jaw, first thing I want to talk about with sleep apnea is when you have insulin resistance, why it's linking. Your brain, when you have insulin resistance in the brain, it's cueing you to store more of a certain type of fat. You have two types of fat, subcutaneous and visceral. Visceral fat is brown because it has mitochondria in it. The mitochondria make the fat more warm and more active. But with insulin resistance, you're being cued to create more visceral fat. Now, the big difference is visceral fat is created underneath the belly wall, primarily in the gut. But would you be surprised to know that visceral fat is also present in your throat and in your tongue? This condition called fat tongue, I was diagnosed with it, and I was told that they could cut my tongue open and inject chemicals in to reduce that fat in my tongue so that my tongue wouldn't block off my airway and cause me to not sleep. I was waking up 60 times an hour. I had insulin resistance, wasn't aware of it, had fat tongue, didn't know why. I was overweight, but that wouldn't have explained that extremely thick tongue bed I had. And as a CPAP machine wasn't working for me. Melba, Melba says, thanks for helping. She's losing weight slowly, but she's losing and her blood pressure is really good. Thank you, Melba. You know what? I saw my bell the other day. I'm going to get it back on my desk. So Melba's doing the system and she's getting better. And that's good news, Melba. I'm going to be driving all day, but I can have my phone on CarPlay and talk. So I would love to have some conversation today while I'm on this 8-9 hour drive. Now, back to sleep apnea, Melba, I'm proud of you. But my sleep apnea went from waking up 60 times an hour to I slept. Now I'm anxious because I'm traveling and all of that. And I lost my passport in the move. And so I was awake, struggling with that. I'll talk about that later. But when I did go to sleep, I was able to sleep for 5 hours solid. No waking up, no getting up to go to the bathroom, none of that. I woke up at 5 hours later because that's the time I normally wake up. And I was good to go. Not enough sleep. That relates to cortisol. But sleep apnea with this fat tongue syndrome is causing some of your sleep apnea. Your tongue is actually hitting in the back of your throat or likely, and causing you some sleep airway obstruction. Now, the other thing is that receding jaw. Let's talk about that. I brought this up a week or so ago. One of the problems with our food today is that we're not chewing as much. When we look at a peach that was this size, right? This size, and now it's this size. How did that happen? This was kind of crunchy, a little bit bitter, a little bit sweet. Really, you had to chew a lot to get that peach down. And then they're this size now. You don't chew very much. They're really mushy most of the time. Sometimes you get them a little crunchy. They're very sweet. They stripped out fibers. Now, when we strip out fibers, when we have smoothies, when we have all of these things, and I drink protein shakes one time a day, many days just to get my protein level in. But the rest of my food is whole, dense food that I have to chew. So long story short, what's happening is as we're chewing less, our jaws are losing strength. As our jaws are losing strength, they're seeing this receding of your jaw because there's no muscle and there's no use for your jaw to be out here and be strong. So sleep apnea, chew your food, choose foods that take a little longer to chew and eat and get your insulin resistance under control. Those two things might just help your sleep apnea drastically along with your profile. Okay. So that's the answer on sleep apnea. And it also explains some of the lower jaw position size. Now, there's some of it that's genetic and that you can't help, but I'm going to tell you, even with genetics, if you work on your jaw strength, you're going to change your profile without all the surgery and stuff. Okay, so we were back to insulin resistance. food causing it. We know that too much sugar causes too much insulin. We know that food is driving all of this. What do we do? Like I said, this is what I do. I do a tea in the morning, which I showed you guys how I mix up, and I drink this. And I will be having, I on my packing list, I had bring at least 3 stainless steel cups. So I have 20 to 40 ounce stainless steel cups. Some fit in the console of my car. I will keep that, and I have a gallon or 2 of water, distilled water in my car already. I'll be able to just mix up my tea along the way, keep me awake, keep me focused on the road. And that's what the tea does, but I'll go over that in a second. Then when I'm done with my fasting, last night was my birthday. We stayed up late and I did have some snacks. My snack was some goat cheese with cranberries on it, but I still had a snack. So I'm only 11 hours in fasting right now. So I will be fasting for a little bit longer. When I get to about 14 to 16 hours of fasting, I'll probably be on the road. And if I want to eat, I'm going to just have this beforehand. So what these two are doing is not only delivering fiber, but it's delivering a full panel of vitamins and minerals. There's a panel of vitamins and minerals in this that are specifically designed for metabolism. This tea is just naturally dense in vitamins like A, C, D, E, K, a full panel of vitamin Bs, plus manganese, magnesium, selenium, a bunch of things that are really healthy for you. So these two things are filling in the majority of the gaps that we have in our nutritional system today that are causing us to be metabolically dysfunctional. So the protein shakes, you guys, thank you, Melba, for the answer. Now, if you guys, I'll come back to this. Let me answer this real quick before I get way off track. This is giving me mental clarity and energy. It's helping me with satiety. It's helping me burn fat for fuel. It's got antioxidant, anti-cancer activities in it. And it just really shuts down my hunger and helps me burn fat while giving me mental clarity and no crashes during a fasting stage. I also drink it when I'm not fasting just because it's a better, healthier drink than sodas and all of that, giving me energy, keeping my hunger down, and keeping me on track. Now, the tea or the balance, the second part, and both parts are equally responsible for the A1C reduction, right? The tea is actually heart healthy. Instead of damaging your heart, it's helping build better heart pressure. So the balance, too many words. It feels like this whole library of books trying to shove out my mouth all at once sometimes. The balance has 7 different fibers in it that are soluble and insoluble, and that's important. I'll explain why in a minute. But it also has phytosterols, which are great for your metabolic health and your heart rate. And then it has a panel of vitamins and minerals specifically designed for your metabolism. This helps you feel full before you even eat. When you do eat, it encapsulates the food that you've eaten in this thick gel substance, which does not deprive you of nutrients. It just slows down how quickly they hit the intestinal tract. So it's like a time release system that allows your glucose spike to come down, allowing your insulin spike to come down. And now you're starting to be more insulin sensitive, along with some intermittent fasting. That's how the system works. It's $5 a day. It reversed my diabetes, took my A1C from 7.4 down to 5.3. Thank you, Melba. She said, happy birthday. So I was not live yesterday morning because it was my birthday and I was getting ready to go live and I was feeling guilty because my grandson was over here and I'm okay. It's personal. I'm a very big cuddler. My love language is touch. Like I just love to just hold the people I love. And so I woke up and I'm like, man, I really just want to stay in bed and just hold this beautiful little angel. But I'm going to get up and I'm going to go do my live because everybody's expecting me. And just as I was getting ready to do my video for the live, he walked in and said, happy birthday, Nana. And when I told him I was going to go live, his face just sank. And I was like, okay, this is the joy of what I do. I love you guys and you're a priority to me, but that little boy is my number one priority, hands down. So I took the morning off and I made an agreement with him. I would go live at 3 p.m. So he had the majority of my day with me and could just enjoy the birthday day with me. He was the first person to say happy birthday yesterday. That's why I wasn't live yesterday. Now, Melba, what are my protein shakes? So I didn't bring one in. I brought some of the other products in that I use, and I want to answer some questions that have been coming up. The protein that I use, Melba, is our protein. It's very highly bioavailable. low in carbohydrates. It gives about 20 grams of protein per serving. So oftentimes I'm doubling up that protein. Why, you guys? Because you need about a gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight. So for me, that's going to look like about 150 to 170 grams of protein a day. And that's hard. Let's talk about OMAD really quick. If you're doing OMAD, I mean, doing that once in a while, I think is okay. But when you listen to some of the metabolic specialists, they're really not advocates of it because it's hard to get your protein intake in a day with one meal. How are you getting in 150 grams of protein in a day, plus 30 grams of carbohydrates, plus whatever else that you need in a day in one meal? So I think I gave a lot of thought to it because I have a number of people who are like, well, I've gone to OMAD. Okay, but why? I think there's this broken system that we all have, that weight loss and health is all about calorie restriction. So they feel like the more they restrict the calories and taking the fasting to a higher place of 24 hours between meals every day, um, they're just not getting in the nutrients. And I want people to be focused on nutrients first. That's why I love the system. It's giving us nutrients. So even when people are doing OMAD, I like to do 2 balance a day because it's giving me those extra nutrients and fiber that my gut needs, that my gut microbiome needs to feed on. Sure. Yeah, you guys, I do, I love what I do, and it's another. Okay, let's go back to some of these. The T's. So you guys can get the system in my profile link. If you just go up there, right under the red light symbols under my picture, you'll see a link. Click on that link, and it will take you to my link tree. So the system looks like this. I brought the boxes in today because I knew people were going to ask about stuff. So this is what you get. Look, this is what you get in a day. 30 of the T and 60 of the balance. Now, if you go on Amazon, eBay, Walmart, and buy them, you're going to end up paying more. Every single person that I've talked to that bought them there thinking they were going to save themselves ended up paying more. And then you're not getting the 90-day money back guarantee. You're not getting the quality guarantee, and you're not getting the low price guarantee. And you don't get coaching from someone like me. So how long should a meal last? I want to address that because it's right here. You guys, we're trying to eat in 5 to 10 minutes. Really? Our meal should take us 20 to 30 minutes to eat. Really? Sit down, chew your food, taste your food, enjoy the nutrients that are going in your body, and take about 20 minutes to eat that meal, allowing your jaw to work and build the strength it needs, allowing all of these other factors to start happening. Okay? Vertigo, yes. Arthritis, yes. Let's talk about those in a second. So, okay, arthritis, I answered in a minute ago. Vertigo is the very simple. I'm not going to get in depth in these right now, but I'll give you the short answer. I've done it in other videos. You guys, all of my past lives where I go in depth explaining things, and I will round back to them. But vertigo is they're found on YouTube. Sorry, I'm all over the place because I'm thinking about the trip I have to make. They're all found on YouTube. You can go back and watch any of the replays on the stuff that I've done, and it will say right on the picture above or to the side on YouTube what the topic for the day is, and I explain it more in depth on those ones. But vertigo, so it has to do with your inner ear in primary, but then it also has to do with some brain function. So you're having some vestibular nerve dysfunction, you're having problems with crystals in your ear, and you're having cochlear problems that are all linked to insulin resistance. Now, some vertigo is not linked to insulin resistance, but primarily it is and can be helped, especially those crystals that some people have had dislodged and really just throw them off. I went over how those are all caused by insulin resistance in another video probably a week ago, but go check those out. And if I need to, I'll do a short video to explain it in depth that you can come back and find. By the way, if you're on YouTube, you guys go to my tab up above in my profile, and you'll find things like the T, fiber. You'll find tabs on PCOS and all of that where I explain some of those things. And then there's a success stories tab where you'll see some people who've had great success with all of these issues. Okay. Melba, I've got Feel Great Shakes, protein shakes. Melba, did you not get my cookbook? And I feel bad because I didn't add it to my text. So I have a little cookbook that I created. It's not a big thing. It's like under 100 pages, but in it are some ideas for drinks with the tea, some foods that I eat that are along the lifestyle of high protein, high fat, and fiber first. Um, and there are some shakes in there. So the basis of my shakes every day, Melba, write it down. just, just write it down. So the basis of my shakes, whatever I add to it, and it's in the cookbook. What I mean, you can get fancy with it, you can not get fancy with it, but I do about a quarter of a cup of a fat. So um, for me, it's usually heavy cream. Now, admittedly, the heavy cream is going to spike my insulin a little bit more than some of the other fats. Sometimes I use like a half an avocado or an avocado cup in there, especially if I'm doing something because my eye and my brain just. So if I'm doing a mint shake, I'll do the avocado. I can throw some spinach in there, but the basis is a quarter of a cup of a heavy fat, cream cheese, heavy cream, coconut milk, avocado, and then I put in the rest of a cup in water, and then I put an additional cup of ice, and then I do 40 grams of protein, and then I just add whatever flavor. So, like, I love chocolate peanut butter, so I have some raw unsugared peanut butter I toss in there. I do like chocolate, so I'll put some chocolate stevia in. Um, just things like that. I've done chocolate strawberry, where I've done the strawberry flavored stevia and chocolate in there, or just stevia. You can actually put your Unimate in that same base. So after that quarter cup of fat, a 3/4 cup of water, cup of ice, and 40 grams of protein, you're just adding flavoring. So you can put your Unimate in there for something that tastes more similar to the frozen lemonade at Chick-fil-A, and that tastes great. So that's the protein shake I do. But if I'm going to do a protein shake, I'm doing it because I want protein in. So I'm going to make sure I have 40 grams of protein in that shake. Okay. After I fast and eat, how long should a meal last? Okay. Now, in another video, I went over all about thyroid. So your thyroid stimulating hormone tells you to produce your T4. Your T4 is converted into T3. With insulin resistance, there can be a dysfunction both in the thyroid stimulating hormone and in the conversion of T4 to T3. T3 is the active component of your hormone of thyroid that's inside your cell, telling your body how to regulate energy. If any step in that is off, you're going to have energy regulation problems, and you're going to have problems losing weight. And you know what? Although thyroid is extremely important, the two hormones that are going to rule over thyroid. So the top three hormones you need to look at are cortisol, insulin, and thyroid. But the top two are going to be cortisol and insulin, and they play off of each other drastically. The system is called the Feel Great System, and you'll find it in my link. Um, Yeah. So a lot of people, Laura, don't realize. She says her A1C is okay, but high normal, and have crystals that didn't realize it was related. So by the time your A1C is starting to climb, you've already built up an amount of insulin resistance. And all of these things are cues that you're having that insulin resistance and headed towards diabetes. Diabetes is really what I call end stage insulin resistance. I was insulin resistant from my late teens forward, and nobody caught it because they weren't testing. So there is a tab in my profile called How to Tell, and I'm putting calculations in there for you that you can use on your current labs, that you can ask your doctor to order a specific additional lab to your current lab work. They don't have to have an extra draw. They don't have to have an extra tube. They can pull it right from the bricktop tube that they pull when you do your complete metabolic panel, and it costs you about $30 extra. All of that information is in the How to Tell tab. Um, So, Lannis, some people, like, I can't control allergies. I did work in an allergy clinic. I want to tell you this. Sometimes, especially with food allergies, they're tough, right? So some people are just going to be allergic. I'm not going to get into all the allergic stuff, and because that's a whole other talk, but some people are just going to be allergic. There is a way to become more sensitive to the products and allow you to not have horrible allergic reactions. Um, I can't really. It starts with titrating in, like doing small amounts, and as you tolerate it well. Allergies are really a body's inability to deal with something because it seems foreign to them in the basis. But talk to your allergist if you really want to do the system and get your gut health under control. They can give you a plan to start getting more sensitive to these products without having allergic reactions. If they're a good allergist, they can. Um, okay, you can buy 20 bags of 1 pound. Okay, so let's talk about that. HBX. So Unimate. I haven't talked about it a lot this morning. I did mention it earlier, and you probably weren't in here for that. So let's talk about regular yerba mate tea. Great tea, right? But chlorogenic acids, the component that can cross the blood-brain barrier and get nutrients into the brain that's helping you with mental clarity, health, and satiety, there's 375 times more of those chlorogenic acids in this than in your 20 bags of regular yerba mate tea. So if you want to do that, that's fine. But this is costing me $5 a day. Most people are spending more than this on one coffee that's giving them a ton of oils that they don't need and sugars that they don't need. Okay. So this is $5 a day for my health. Plus, do I want to do even a 1 pound bag of that tea and try and drink that in a day and steep that and prepare that in a day? Or do I want to simply take this, open it up, pour it in water and drink it? I'm telling you, I'm going to be out of town for 7 days. I am not carrying 20 pounds of yerba mate tea. This, by the way, when I looked up yerba mate, like the canned yerba mate and some of the yerba mate drinks out there, this is right in the same price range as those. But now I'm not carrying around a bunch of cans. I'm carrying around packets that I put in distilled water and I'm done. So now the other part of it is just the chlorogenic acids are higher, but everything is higher in this because it's concentrated. So it's picked at the right time of freshness. You're not getting overripe or underripe leaves. And that's important because you're not getting the nutritional value out of those. Then it's fire roasted to help release these components that we need from the stem and the leaf of the plant. Because the truth is yerba mate is stem and leaf. And then, or for your tea it is. And then we take it through. So once it's extracted, we concentrate it. That's how we get to 375 times. So it's like, I don't know. Do I want to drink 1 bottle of this a day, or do I want to drink 30 to 300 bottles a day? And what would that do to my health? It's not going to help. So there's that. Then the last part is we take it to a lab in Switzerland, and that takes it through a hyper pure process that helps remove those PAHs or carcinogens from the tea, which your bag of tea does not have. It has not had the PAHs removed. It has not had the carcinogens removed. And then it's also helping remove pesticides and toxins that are present in that bagged tea. So what do you want? Do you want a tea that's probably 300 times less effective than this and get all the carcinogens and pesticides? That's not what I would choose. That's not what I would choose at all. A1C doesn't show the roller coaster of blood sugar or overproduction of insulin. Right, it does not. But A1C gives you a snapshot of about 3 months of what your blood sugar has done. So the scary part is with your A1C, if it's 7.4, that means there's times that it's been lower, your blood sugar's been lower, but there's times that it's been way higher. So that's one thing to know. But the A1C is highly driven by the higher glucose levels because they've been over inundating the body and causing higher insulin levels over a long period of time. This doesn't happen quickly. And that's the other thing I want to say. Because it doesn't happen quickly, don't expect it to reverse quickly. You didn't get insulin resistant in a week. You didn't get insulin resistant in a month. You didn't get insulin resistant that quickly ever. You've probably been sick for 10 to 20 years. Why on God's green earth would you expect that it's going to reverse for you in a week or a month? For some people, it starts reversing in that time. For many people, it's at about the 3-month mark where they start to really see the compound results of having a healthier nutritional system and a healthier gut. So you also have extreme allergies, 4 surgeries, and the day there's nothing left they can do. They say there's nothing left they can do. So let's talk a little bit about allergies too. So I'm having some allergies right now, environmental allergies, because I'm in a whole different part of the country that I've really never been in. I moved out to Maryland about a year and a few months ago. So this is my second season going through this type of season. And so I'm having um, allergies just to the deciduous trees out here that I'm not used to. But as far as food allergies and a number of those things, they're almost non-existent. Allergies also are related to an imperfect gut and a dysbiosis in the gut. So insulin resistance, in my understanding of why I was able to not have allergic reactions after the first 6 months in my native home, why I didn't have any of the allergic reactions was because my gut microbiome had built up. Your immune system is held 70% in your gut. And if that's unhealthy, the rest of your system cannot function healthy when it comes to allergies and immunity. So one of the keys is get the gut healthy, and you might just see those allergies get better. So if you're not allergic to the product and you want to give that a shot, I mean, look, there's a 90-day money back guarantee. Do you want to try it for 90 days and see if your allergies can start to be relieved, to see if your headaches and your mood and your depression and your swelling and your heart rate and all of these things can start to get better? Would that be worth 90 days? That's really the question you can answer. So I am representing the Feel Great system because it helped me. So it took me from there to there in about 6 months, and it's kept me healthy ever since by filling in the gaps of our nutritional system. It's a tea that I drink in the morning and a pre-meal drink that I have before I eat anything. Now look, this does not spike my insulin either. This is the pre-meal drink, right? So I was going to show you this too. This is how easy it is. I could carry around a tub of this and then have to scoop it out and try and measure it and do all of that. When in reality, what I'm going to do when I travel is I have a bottle like this. I have some water, whether I stop and buy it or whether I have it in the car. That's about as much water as I use to mix mine. Some people add more. I don't like to drink that much. Same procedure. I'm going to grab above and below the little Tear Now tab, and I'm just going to pull up and turn at the same time, and it comes right off. Now, I'm just going to pour this right in here. Oh, and I dropped the whole thing in. Of course I did, just so you can see me do that live. Okay. Now that that's done in a mess, I'm just going to put the lid back on, and it's just as simple. Now it's mixed. Now I drink. And I'm done. That's 5 grams of fiber. 5 grams of fiber that's going to slow down any sugars that I eat. It's going to kick off short chain fatty acids in my gut because it has prebiotics in it, allowing my probiotics to start going to work. Those short chain fatty acids are going to help tell my body to burn fat for fuel and help keep me more insulin sensitive. Have I used a continuous glucose monitor? No, but I'm really looking into it because the more I learn, the more I realize that having that glucose monitor would probably help me with the latent issues that I still have in understanding how food affects me. And so you guys, I want you to understand this. Food, you can sit 5 people down from 5 different backgrounds and give them the same food, and it's going to affect their glucose levels very drastically differently. So I'm a big advocate of continuous glucose monitors. I will be getting one for myself this year, but I don't talk about it a lot because they're expensive unless you have insurance that will cover it, unless you have a diagnosis that the insurance wants to cover it. So if you have insurance, they're about $50 a month. If you can bear that, I would say yes, get one and start learning what foods help you stay healthy. So Clint, yeah. So all right, let's workshop through some of that. It's called the Feel Great System, Sandy. You get it in my profile link, and I'm just going to implore you. The people on Amazon, eBay, and Walmart are not authorized to be selling. We found pirated products. We found diluted products. We found expired products. You're not going to get guarantees or coaching when you go there, and you're going to end up paying more. People who thought they were paying less have called me and was like, well, I got it on Amazon because I paid less. We took a look at what they bought, and they ended up paying about $100 more than they needed to. Please don't do that. Now, your gut does not and has not ever told you when you're full. Let's workshop through some possibilities with that related to insulin resistance. There may be some other things, but what I would think with insulin resistance is you start to have some, the neuropathy people have throughout their body where they get this numbness and whatnot. You could be having some of that in your gut where your gut's just not functioning and giving you satiety clues, even when you eat a 5-pound roast and still hungry. Yeah, there's some definite gut dysfunction going on, and I'm surprised that no doctor has looked into that. Of course, I'm going to advocate for trying the system and getting your gut healthier and seeing how much your satiety could be. Some of the most, and I love you guys. I'm not laughing at anybody. I'm just laughing at um, how misinformed we've been, right? Because people will call me and say, "Well, can I just do the tea because the pre-meal drink makes me feel so full. Before I eat, I just am already full." Well, that's kind of the point. You want to be a little bit full before you eat. And then when you do eat, you want to focus on nutrition. So the nutrition is 150 or about a gram of protein per pound of body weight, ideal body weight, and 30 to 40 grams of fiber and good healthy fats. So some of the fats that I love, and I actually was listening to some doctors and nutritionists and talking about fats, and I love coconut oil. I love butter and ghee, but even better than that, some of the better ones are avocado oil. And avocado in whole has a high amount of fiber in it as well as some protein and fats. Great fat. If you guys can work avocado in, that's why I throw it in my shakes from time to time. May make it look a little different color. So good for you, especially like if you add a little bit of like unsugared chocolate syrup or stevia to it, or if you just want to drink something that's green but tastes chocolate, it's great. But avocado is great. Um, and then extra virgin olive oil has been shown to reduce an insulin spike much further than butter and ghee. So I am myself transitioning more to cooking with olive oil. I've always had it in my kitchen. I just have always chosen to cook with butter because I like the taste of things cooked with butter. But I'm going to start trying to split that up a little bit. So avocado oil, butter, ghee, coconut oil are great fats, and you need to get them in. All this stuff about how they're bad for your health, there's science that's going to show it either way. And it depends on who backed the science papers. But when I listen to metabolic specialists like Dr. Bickman, who says, man, my nose is getting plugged, who wrote the book Why We Get Sick, and who says you have to have high quality protein with high quality fats, I'm going to listen to him because this is his life's work, is metabolism. And I just did a video with him. Was he talking about the tea? I'm going to be doing some videos highlighting him where he's talking about tea and the fiber. Yeah, it was the tea because he actually drinks the same tea I drink because of its efficacy, because of its purity. So he drinks this over buying a bagged yerba mate tea and drinking that. Okay. It doesn't, if you're cooking in high heat, yes, it can go rancid. If you have olive oil for a long time, it can go rancid. If you have olive oil that's not in a dark glass bottle, it can go rancid. And you should really only have olive oil on your shelf for a couple of months, and you should have used it up and be moving on. If you've had olive oil sitting for 6 months, it's probably not good. Okay. But any food that's cooked at a high heat is going to have problems. You want to cook at a higher heat, you might look at coconut oil. But extremely high heat oils, I haven't talked about oils for a long time. You guys, some of these other oils that we have, let's look at the history of them, and you guys can Google it and find the information on it. But I believe it was Rockefeller who was looking at this food waste that we had, and he was like, how can I make use of that? And he started developing an oil, an automotive or machine oil based on compressing and extracting components out of this food waste um, to create this oil. And they drench it in hexane, a highly toxic solvent. And people say, oh, well, they clean the solvent off. Well, do they really? How much of that? Like if you tested your oils and you wanted to go to that expense and test it to see how much hexane is left in those seed oils, grapeseed oil, corn oil, all of those things that they're extracting from a seed, how much of those toxins are left in there? So those oils were really created to be a machine oil. not something I want to put in my body. I do get a hold of it occasionally because I eat out and I can't control what they cook in when I eat out. I do the best I can. I'm not a purist on anything. I just aim to do the best I can, and that's what I would like everyone else to do. But when you look at oils that are going to be healthy for you, if you squeeze the fruit or if you squeeze it and you can feel that greasy fat coming out, um, then you know that's a good oil for you. But how many of you squeeze, I don't know, corn and expect to get that fatty substance out of it? You don't. So why are you using it as an oil? Yeah, it's not talked about enough, Laura. And I know there's a lot of hype one way or the other. And can I without getting too what I call conspiracyist, but let's look at it. If you were knowing that if you ate healthy fats along with healthy proteins, and stop cutting the fat off of your steaks. Stop, trying to get the leanest cuts of meat because the fat is with the meat because it needs to be. Okay. So if you focus on that and you're full, how much are you going to be eating all those sugars and all of this packaged processed food that they're selling you, that they're making billions of dollars, trillions of dollars a year off of? How much of that food are they going to sell if you just knew that eating protein and fat was going to help you burn fat, stay satiated, reduce your insulin, and now you're not going to Big Brother, Big Pharma to buy all those medications either. Sunflower seed. So if you tell me, if you pick up a handful of sunflower seeds and squeeze it, are you getting oil out of it? No, no. If it says seed, I mean, like grapeseed oil, I've heard some good things about, but basically for me, if it says seed in the oil, I don't use it. I simply this olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, dark glass bottle. Check the bottle because the quality of the oil in there makes a difference. When you're buying the light olive oil, it's often the seed oils combined with some olive oil, so they can call it olive oil. Pure extra virgin olive oil, a little more expensive. You don't need a lot, but your health is worth it. Avocado oil, coconut oil are the three main ones, butter, ghee, and then the animal fats that come on animals. Animal fats like tallow and lard are better than vegetable oils, yes, if you're not overdoing them. But if you're overdoing any vegetable oil, you're going to have a problem. If you're overdoing any oil, right? But in normal amounts to season and to flavor your food, you're going to get better flavor from your food from those than you are with any seed oil, with any sugar, with any of that. Does olive oil prevent snoring? I wish it did. My nose has been broken twice. One doctor said the cartilage in my nose looks like a lightning bolt, so I'm going to snore. I'm just going to snore. It's just, and then I have allergies. I'm going to snore. I don't think the olive oil is going to cure that. However, coconut oil, little tip, not to do anything with the Feel Great system, but I use coconut oil inside my nasal passages because it has antibacterial properties and it's highly lubricating and it's healthy. And I have not had to do any antibiotics for nasal infections in years. Whereas when I was younger, I was constantly on antibiotics for the allergies I had and the nasal infections I had. So I'm going to go and even when I have colds, I use coconut oil in my nose. I use it on my skin. You can oil pull with it to clean up your teeth and gums. Like you guys, it's a great, great oil. So I'm actually looking at a jar of it across my office now. There's one in my bathroom. There's a couple in my kitchen. I'm a big coconut oil believer, but for cooking, I will cook in coconut oil once in a while, but avocado oil, not avocado oil. For my house, it's extra virgin olive oil and butter are the two that I cook in. Okay. I know there was another question up here that I missed. So if I did not answer your question, how do you treat vertigo? We talked about vertigo a little bit ago and how it's related to insulin resistance. I had vertigo that would, like, if I coughed or if I sneezed, it would get so bad I would literally almost fall over. If I wasn't sitting down, I would fall down. It caused an accident that totaled my car because I had a little cough and I was driving a half a mile from my house to the grocery store to get some cough remedy, and I coughed, and a car decided to stop in this little short strip between my house and I rear-ended them at about 35 miles an hour, 30 miles an hour, and my whole car exploded because that's how they're built now, and it totaled my car from a vertigo episode. I don't have those now. The point is, I don't have those now. So it's causing, and I'm not going to go over the in-depth part because I've done that in other videos, but it's causing vestibular dysfunction, it's causing cochlear dysfunction, and it's causing dysfunction with the crystals in your ears. And those are all linked to insulin resistance and the not getting energy to those areas. And that can cause the vertigo. They're finding that when they give Meniere's patients diabetes treatments, that they're getting better. So again, this is treating the insulin resistance, the system that I do, and that's likely how my vertigo went away. Um, I've had people with like weird things like ankylosing spondylitis who say that their doctors say they're in remission, and all they've changed is doing the system. People who had stage 3 kidney disease who were preparing to go for kidney surgery who now have normal kidney function. My liver was suffering and I now have normal liver function. Just like on and on and on. If you please understand, 93% of us are metabolically unhealthy, and at the root of metabolic disease and disorder is insulin resistance. So learning to get insulin resistance under control and understanding why you're doing it is key to getting healthy. Okay. So all right, I'm going to hop off because I got to start getting ready to make this long drive up to Toronto. If you're in the Toronto area, I will still be going live every day at 8:30. You guys, though, don't worry. I'll be live at 8:30 and we'll still answer questions. Is there anything anybody wants me to go over in depth tomorrow? I've heard vertigo a couple of times. I saw PCOS, and if PCOS people are still on here, let me know. I'd be more than happy to go over whatever it is you guys need. If you want, tell me what it is you want me to go over tomorrow and we'll bring that, or I'll pick something. Kim, thank you. And I missed some of these messages. So Melba, sometimes you get a little sick to your stomach before you start to feel great. Is that because of the insulin? There could be a number of things, Melba. Sorry, I didn't see that question. There could be a number of things happening. Your blood sugars. So in the beginning, you guys, it's not like you have this blood sugar dysregulation, and because you've done the system, all of a sudden your blood sugars are functioning fine and your body understands how to use insulin fine. It takes a while. So if you were to do a long-term fast in the beginning of your journey, your ketone levels are going to vary rapidly and wildly, and you could probably go into a high stage of ketosis, which is very dangerous, much easier because your metabolism isn't functioning correctly and doesn't know how. So sometimes you get sick in the morning, and maybe it's your blood sugars are dysregulated. Maybe you do have a little bit of acidic problem going on. Your gut's not functioning properly, and it just feels like you may still have a little bit of an acidic gut from this paralysis in your gut. So many things could be happening. But when you drink the tea, let's talk about this really quick. The free ebook is emailed to you. It went out. So I sent it to everybody who's on subscription. You should have gotten one. If you didn't, Kim or Melba, I'll just get it back out to you. But look, the tea, besides, helping you feel full and satiated, it's doing a couple of things. It is giving you a little bit of a distension feeling in your gut so that it's calming that down a little bit, and it's giving you satiety signals in your brain. So if the gut pain is because you feel that you're feeling hungry, it helps shut that down. If it's because of sugar dysregulation, you're just going to have to give it time, because in time, your body's going to learn how to actually use sugar and use fat. Right now, it's so sugar driven that when you don't have sugar present, your body starts to kind of go in freak out mode. Even though it hasn't been able to take it up, it's all it knows. So in order to get all of this under control, you've got to start training your body to allow itself to use the fat that it has stored and then switch over to using sugar. And that's why we do intermittent fasting, but it takes time. And so we should have a talk and see what we can help you through that. You guys, if by the way, if you have headaches or some of those things and you're not salt restricted by your doctor, you can add some salt, some Himalayan or Celtic salt to your tea, which will greatly reduce headaches in the beginning. Again, you're getting a ton of nutrients to your brain that you're not used to getting in. With the fiber, you're getting in way more fiber in a potent combination that you're not used to getting. So you may end up with some gas and distension and bloating as your gut gets healthier. Those are symptoms that your gut was unhealthy and is getting stronger. Bear with it, it goes away in a few weeks. And then you're like I had, just again, personal stuff. I'm on here, you guys get to know all my stuff, right? But I had uncontrolled IBS so bad that like I had to time trips to the grocery store because it could be disastrous in the grocery store. I could be at the back aisle and have a feeling like, oh, something's wrong. And before I could even get to the restroom in the front of the grocery store, it would be all over. And I don't have those issues anymore because my gut got healthier. My gut microbiome got healthier. It wasn't just about the timing of eating or all of that. It was getting my gut microbiome healthier. Fiber is so important. And to getting our gut microbiome healthy, I cannot stress enough how important getting the right amount of fiber in and getting your gut healthy is to your overall health. Okay, I'm going to go get packed up and get ready because I usually pack up way early, but I didn't. And in fact, I was up at 2 a.m. trying to figure out where my passport was because I moved in December, used it last in November, and couldn't remember where I put it from the safe space it was in. Found it, so I'm good to go. I can go to Canada now. All right, so yeah, those of you in Canada, I'll be there in Toronto, right near the airport, from tonight until Saturday, and Nurse Steph will be up there with me. You guys want to meet us? You want to talk with us? You want to learn more about this or learn about the business that we're doing? Please let me know, and I'd be more than happy to make time to meet with you. I would actually love to meet with some people in person. I'm not a big crowds person, but I'm like a one-on-one person. If you want to meet me one-on-one, I'll talk your ear off. But in a big crowd, I kind of go into my shell. Anyway, if you want to meet with us, I would love to see you. And we will be back at 8:30 in the morning tomorrow. Since nobody's picked a topic, I'm going to go back. The biosalts. Melba, I don't know what biosalts, and I don't like. I have the LMNT, the element that I use for electrolytes, but I'm not sure. Pacemaker, yeah. So with the pacemaker, I want you to follow your doctor's directions until you start to get your insulin resistance reversed. Adding extra salt could be devastating for you. It's not the salt that's the problem, it's the sugar that's causing the regulation of the salt that's the problem. So we've got to get you more insulin sensitive, and then we can then work with your doctor to see about your salts. Hypothyroidism, in short, Faiza, we'll talk about, okay, I asked, you're giving me an answer. Let's talk about hypothyroidism then. That's a good one because, again, you guys, and maybe I'll try to throw in some stuff about cortisol tomorrow too, because, again, I want you to walk away with this. There are three main hormones that are controlling your metabolism and how you utilize and uptake energy, and that's insulin, cortisol, and thyroid. So hypothyroidism and thyroid is really important in this whole discussion. I would love to talk about how all three of those link and how we can start helping those get better. Now, again, I am not a specialist on anything but the system and insulin resistance. So that's my lens. That's where we're going to talk about it. Yeah. So we'll talk about cortisol tomorrow too. Now, I'll save it for tomorrow, but there's a lot of information on cortisol, thyroid, and thyroid. Cortisol, insulin, and thyroid. I think I said thyroid twice. And it's really important to your metabolism. So we'll talk about it tomorrow. All right, you guys have a good day. By the way, I showed up with no makeup today. I didn't do anything to my face because I was just like, you know what? I'm tired of this is my personal lens. Like those of you who want to wear layers of makeup and you're artist at it, great. But I don't want people to feel like they never see the real me and they don't see the reality of what it feels like to be 60 now and be under control with my insulin resistance. I just had a conversation with my son likes to pick on me and tell me I'm old, and my grandson says I'm old. And I was like, I'm not old. I'm 60. I have a lot of life left in me. And we had this little conversation. I had to give my little grandson an education. And this is what I want everyone out there to take on, or I would invite you to take on for yourselves, a mindset that I want you to take on for yourselves. Everyone around me could be telling me that I'm old. I don't accept that. It's not my reality. I'm not falling into that gap. I'm not falling into that pit. I am not old. I am at the prime of my life and I have a lot of good years left in me. In fact, with the knowledge I have now of life in general, of health in general, I feel like I'm at a better point in my life than I was at 36. So do not let other people dictate your reality. Okay. That's my last piece for today, and we'll see you in the morning. Thank you, Janice. Thank you so much. I love all your support. Thank you. Have a good day, guys.